don't necessarily have to be on the extreme, but it's that consistency of a look. So like I said, with this quartet, there's that consistency of always having that ensemble together that has already an image. It's like, oh, this quartet always has this specific look. Or like, even for example, like the Danish string quartet, all very tall, handsome boys from Denmark, and their look is also kind of that casualness, but very smart. And I think maybe that's more like, I think that is something worth sort of discussing, is like, as you guys, or if you're continuing to do performance, or as musicians come out, is it always like, not more specific about this concert, but always thinking sort of long term, what is that image I want to create? With tons of pianists, tons of violinists, tons of classical musicians out there doing the same thing, is that outfit, that ensemble, another piece of who you are to be different from others?
Well, to be honest, I feel like, because I was kind of, when I was back in Manus, I kind of observed what people wear during their concert, especially like graduation season.
Yeah.
I just feel like style is like something that you can't really learn. It's like somebody just have good style, and they have like a very distinct style. When you see it, just feel like it blended in with their music and with their the aura that they're standing off. But like some people just have very bad style. I have to be honest, like it's really bad. And I don't think.
And do they need help?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well,
okay.
I'm being open-minded, because I feel like having the bad style is also a style. Like,
yeah, but also at the same time, like, I'm not saying that not everyone is naturally good at it. This is what I'm saying. Like, you're not expected to know this, but it's just about, I think it's about awareness. Like, being aware that if I'm not good at it, I should seek help, to have someone help me, and to and to have a look. So for example, I was watching I was watching a documentary on the plane about the Chopin competition. Okay. And they focused on 4 or 5 artists. And then one of them was very clear about his personal style. He always wore a turtleneck. Very simple, very like just with a jacket. But then it's unlike every other one, the competitors that's in there always wearing a suit. Some of them are like very formal with the tux, with the bow tie and everything. Right? So for me, I would remember him more along with his playing, because he always stands out as someone that's different. Is it drastically different than what everyone else is doing? Maybe, but it's not like outrageous. But it's always like he always has a high neck. But again, not inappropriate, right? It's always paired. So he obviously is someone who thinks about it, who understands the importance of it, and maintains that look. So,
and I'm guessing like it's like he discovered, or people found that it was like flattering and it suits him, like his look or his aura, and then he just decided to stick with it, which is smart.
Yeah, and I think that's also what I'm saying, is I think, should there be more thought into it, right? Like, I think we don't think too much of it as a business in the classical world. Even just like, I was having a conversation with a colleague this morning about presentation, even of your materials, right? Like how, we talk about putting decks together for projects. And then he was telling me, yeah, like all these artists, especially like all these old school European groups, they don't understand that. They just like, well, we're very good, so you should just know we're very good by reading tons and tons of words. And I'm like, well, don't forget, there are marketplaces where English is not their first language. So if you want them to read all those texts, like 800 words of text, no one's going to want to read it. This is why like you have to understand, right? Like this is like that old school mentality where you're almost like taught that this is the specific kind of outfit you have to wear. So if you look at all the maestros, all the big impresarios, whether it's the pianists, the singers and stuff, they always look, you just know them they're wearing something extremely fancy, but they don't have a specific image that's attached to them. They're just, some of them obviously are built their career on a specific personality, but when it comes to outfit, it's not like the pop world or the commercial world, right? You can very much say, okay, Alicia Keys always has this kind of look. Doja Cat always has this kind of look. Dua Lipa always has this kind of look. Lady Gaga always has, like that is very much crafted. It starts with the artist, but at the same time, they have an entire team that's crafting their look. And, is that important for our world?
Because I feel like classical music concert and pop music concert, they're both concerts, but like I feel like outfit image plays a very important element in a pop concert.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the otherwise, like it's definitely come to more realization right now, but like in classical music, I don't think people used to pay that much attention on the outfit, but obviously right now it's becoming more and more important for musicians. I think people are starting to realize because of Yuja. And it kind of reminds me of a TikTok. It's saying that if the book is in a series, that the design of the book should be the same. It's like the Twilight series. When you put it on the shelf, look at the back of it. It's like aesthetically pleasing because you know it's Twilight. But like some of the books, they're in series, but they are in different size and different image. That's annoying.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I'm saying, right? That overall package of always knowing that when this artist steps on stage, you have a certain expectation of this is kind of their look, right? Like there's this look that they maintain all the time, whether it's fancy, whether it's outrageous, whether it's not. And we expect people to understand that, we're expecting people to understand what we're playing but that's the entitlement that we have and the privilege that we expect people to come into the audience and then expect to understand what we're playing. But that's also the problem that we've created for ourselves. And maybe that visual is also a way to break down that barrier.
I think I do appreciate what Yuja is doing. It's kind of like breaking down the stereotype of what a woman should wear at a classical music concert.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's pretty much like long dress, probably like navy, or like just like a long dress. Because when I'm thinking about it, what women wear to a concert, it's just a long dress and a heels, like nothing special. That's what when I think about it, I think about it. But right now, people think about her.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really great thing.
Right. Yeah, to be honest, it does make it more like interesting. And then also, I feel like perhaps in the beginning, I wasn't really there and updated, but in the beginning, people were probably like really like, oh my God, what the hell is she wearing? But over time, I feel like people have become to appreciate it.
People are used to it by now. It obviously created an uproar. But yeah, I mean, that's like you said, right? Like she went on the other deep end, but she's created this consistency that this is exactly what we're going to expect from her. So it's no longer a surprise anymore. But that's now her image, right? Like she's created this image about herself that this is who she is, and she stands out. Right. So at least we know when we say, oh, Yu Jo Wang, like, even if you don't know who she is, she's like, oh yeah, that is the girl. That's the artist that wears that, incredibly tight clothes that she's look like she's going clubbing. Like at least, and so even for people who don't know classical music, as like when they see that, they're like, oh, they can recognize it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, people love it. They react so positively. If you ever go to like any of her posts, there's so many comments that sometimes more about the outfits than the music, really.
Exactly. So is that then what we want too, right? Like that's also something that as an artist, that's something you have to be careful of, right? Where that stuff becomes more important than the actual artistry, then have you then gone too far, right? If that's taking attention away from what your craft is. So again, I'm not trying to, there's no right or there's no right or wrong, and I'll just always be playing devil's advocate. And like to your point, Nick, maybe I am a little bit old fashioned, but I also understand that like it's not about, maybe it's not about old fashioned, but more as to like how do you strategically wear something. Like I said, as an outfit, that woman with the suit, it looks great. It's beautiful. If you take her out of that context of that recital, it would look great. Like if she had just a beautiful purse, walking down the red carpet of some sort of event, attending a concert herself, not on stage, she would look fabulous. She would be so like, it's very sharp, very handsome, very, very smart. But the moment she gets on that stage behind the piano, then that imagery then looks slightly, it was an odd pairing, if that makes any sense. Right?
It does.
So anyway, I don't know. I mean,
but I do think there is probably not going to be like a second Yu Wang, because first of all, I do have to say, wearing that outfit and play incredibly well, like first of all maintains her to be very, like needs her to be very, very confident about herself. And also like I can tell she just have like a strong personality. But also imagine if you wear a outfit like that and you fucked up and you slip a note.
Dang, like every time I see her in that stuff, I'm like, she's so constricted, and I was like, how are you playing and not have anything fall out? Like with all those, and she loves playing those warhorse pieces.
Literally
are incredibly physical. And that's always my concern, is like, are any of your parts gonna just fall out and spill over?
Like the 5 Heart On and Off Concerti concert. That was crazy.
Nick's like, I'm happy to look at him. I know that's what you're thinking.
I never said that.
You don't need to say it. No, just kidding. Anyways, look, I'm throwing it out because I don't think we've, it's again one of those things I think about, and as I work with artists, and I mean even just here, like being in a country that's more conservative, and then we're talking about, regardless of anyone that comes on stage, like that's another side of what you wear, like exactly what appropriateness also comes down to like cultural sensitivities depending on where you're going. So where I am, every artist that comes through our stage, we have to have a conversation. Like, what can you show? What can't you show? So that is now being dictated by us, and that could impede upon the artist's image or what they normally would do. But unfortunately, that's just how it is in our part of the world. But even within those contexts, I remember we had a Saudi artist that came to sing for Long Long's Disney project, and she was one of the solo artists, and she was singing, a very jazzy kind of song, and then she was showing me photos of what she was going to wear, and I was like, oh, it's incredible, because that kind of print on her dress was sort of very much reflective of the piece that she was singing. And so that was where I was thinking, on, and I was like, oh, this dress is going to look very lovely with what you're singing. And so to me, I'm encouraging, especially our classical artists, to think more in that, to think more down that path, right? How far you want to take it, that's up to your protocol. But I think there has to be a thought process. I think I really encourage that artists really think about that. What does that mean to, I'm playing a concerti? What kind of outfit will really enhance the sound that I'm listening to. It's like a painting, right? It's visually, if you think about it, you're visually moving painting on stage. So it starts with what you wear.
Planning your outfit is a smart move, especially you in your career long term.
Well,
It's really smart.
I used to, joke with my friends. It's like, if we ever entered the Chopin competition, like a couple of my friends and I, at the same time, how smart of a marketing tactic would it be just to be, because like if you don't think that you're going to win, because there's so many amazing pianists there and you never know how it's going to turn out, just to kind of capture everyone's attention by wearing like some kind of like writing on the back of your suit, for example, like I don't know, as an example, like Teen Chaos or something, and then during every single interview that they have with you, just completely say the most absurd stuff and capture the public's attention, so that even when you lose the competition, people still want to see what you're up to, or at least will remember you for the competition. Like because like they have like these typical interviews like with all the contestants, right, that make it there. And it's like, who are you, where are you from, why do you want to take part in the Chopin competition? And it's like if someone came in like looking like they're hungover or something, like wearing sunglasses, and then they're like, well, so why do you want to be in this competition? It's like, well, to win, for the money. Just straight up honest answers, because everyone's always like, oh, I love the music of Chopin, and it's really inspiring, and I really couldn't wait to show everyone what I've done with the pieces. Like, and someone comes on and they're like, hell no, I want to win, it's 50,000 euros or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And then when they're play with such play completely in a different way that kind of captures everyone's attention, like just aside from stereotypical norms. I feel like that's the perfect way to market oneself. That's the only time I really considered some sort of outfit change.
I mean, I feel like
I never understood why everyone's always in a suit on stage. Like, why not just put on like a leather jacket and call it a day? I feel like that would be such a look,
But I mean, with these competitions, do they not have dress code requirement?
I don't know. I usually just go to the repertoire requirements. I never looked at the dress code requirements. Maybe they do. Well, you could always break them.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like what goes on more like in the pop industry and stuff, which honestly there are stuff to learn from over there. Like I feel like more artists there like get famous for like doing weird things or like saying weird things in interviews, and then they get people's attention, and that's how they like pop off.
Well, those are the interesting characters. I mean, take a look at Glenn Gould. He said at least like 50,000 interesting things, or bizarre things, or has done so many weird things. Like I remember, like I was reading like a biography of his written by a friend who was a psychiatrist. A friend of his was a psychiatrist, right? And it was just kind of like a chapter by chapter biography, but it was in a storytelling, written in a storytelling way. And there was like a story of like Glenn Gould going over the U.S.-Canada border, and they were checking, searching him, and all of a sudden he pulls out like 150 like prescription pills out of his jacket, and they're like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. They're just to help me." And it's like, okay. Or like, for example, Richter, who like was judging in the Tchaikovsky competition and gave everyone a 0 except for one person. For example, right? It's just like, I feel like the music world lacks characters like that. I feel like Yuja is a very good example of someone who has a personality and can really capture the audience's attention, because everyone else is too normal. I mean, okay, maybe not everyone, but you know what I mean. A big chunk of people, they just know how to play well. That's it. And that's not enough these days, I feel like, to keep our industry.
Well, I think, again, that goes back to why we're having this conversation, right? Is playing well enough? And that starts off, it's everything else, right? Aside from playing well, because playing well is just naturally expected. And then what is a playing well? Because to an audience that doesn't know classical music, how well you play from this pianist to the other pianist, they can't hear it. They're not really going to understand it. If you ask my parents, they're not going to understand it, right? So what else is it that's going to attract them to come to hear you once the basic is a given?
Personality.
And that's the thing, right? Like, because those are all stuff that we frown upon. as you're taught. Again, one of those maybe little, you know, things that they don't talk about at schools, at the conservatories. Like it's more than just playing well.
I agree with them. I try not to do the same to my students. I try not to constrict them like that. Like one of my students, like, I mean, to be fair, he's 9. He came on stage and without instruction, he came out in shades and like some and like he was wearing like a collared shirt and like really, you know, nice pants, you know, good looking shoes. Came out in shades. I'm like, you're playing like that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, go for it. And he then went out, played, nailed the piece, gave a killer bow, and ran away. You know, and I feel like I still remember that performance. So I think we should be a little bit less. We should be a little bit more lax in terms of this kind of thing.
Right.
Healthy.
Right. Well, I think that's a lot of food for thought, right? Especially as you guys are, you know, engaging with your friends, some that may want to go down that path, and maybe you can all be their stylist. I don't know, you know? I mean, certainly a lot of them need more coaching than others. More, you know, more of them needs more coaching than not, is what I'm trying to say. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I really think these are important things to think about, even as we know that with social medias and everything. But I think we are so, once you're trained in that specific ways of thinking, unless that training mechanism changes, you're still going to be ingrained for 4 or 5 years to be thinking in a certain way and to be dressing in a certain way. Right? And so by default, your brain is going to naturally say, okay, this is what's appropriate. This is not what's appropriate. And this is what I'm just going to wear on stage without more further thought process into it. So, you know, what I wanted to say is to let us just, that is something that should be as much of a priority as making sure you play well. Preach. Anyway, well, thank you, everyone. We'll come back again in a week or two, and with more new conversations. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye.